For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. On infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections.
If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious.
Violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa and other radical left-wing groups who are terrorizing the innocent, destroying jobs, hurting businesses, and burning down buildings.
They are coming after me because I am fighting for you. That's what's happening.
Greetings, fellow thought criminals, and thank you for joining the Insurrection. I'm Michael Lauber. This is Derrick Evans. It's Friday. The first week of Trump's rule has been just glorious. Derrick's still a little under the weather, but we've got a great show and a fantastic guest for you today.
Absolutely. As always, guys, like, share, subscribe. Thank you guys for hanging out with us in the chats. We already got Thaddeus popping off, Dan Dreyer as well. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. As he said, I am sick. I'm going to leave the sweatshirt on today. I'm getting better, though. We're going to keep it rocking and rolling. I'll tell you what, though. I don't know about you guys. I'm almost tired of winning. Trump has delivered 3 years worth of victory in the first 3 business days. This man is a machine. I have to wonder, has he even slept at this point? I don't know. But we got an awesome guest for you guys. We got Gabe Woolley, man. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me back.
Well, I appreciate you being here. And you're also making waves there in Oklahoma. We're going to get to that. But I always like to start off with something a little fun when we can. So I got a video I want to play for you guys real quick.
I'm not going back to Haiti.
Well, he's wrong. He's going back to Haiti.
Come on. Sicker than your average. Pop a twist cabbage on instinct.
Whoops, wrong one. Yes, Tom Homan is out there already infuriating the left and beginning the cleanup process with deportations. They're already trying to play at everybody's heartstrings, show every crying, obletta out there they can. They want to make sure. They're trying to manipulate the American people by tapping into their emotions, but it isn't working.
Yeah, well, I mean, as you said, man, it's just been incredible right now. I mean, I don't think even those of us who had faith in President Trump, I think even we are shocked right now in terms of just, what he's been able to accomplish within the first 3 to 4 days. I mean, it's been absolutely incredible. I mean, Tom Homan has got the military planes right now deporting 5,000 people roughly, I think is what I saw this morning. I mean, this is unbelievable. And then Thaddeus in the chat here says, been losing for so long, I'll never get tired of winning. And I think a lot of us feel that way. And then quick shout out to Sean and Fergus as well. Thank you guys.
Go ahead. I think the long wait is over for what you're talking about with President Trump. I just wanted to comment on that. We have been what seems to be the longest campaign of all time because we've just been waiting to get back to sanity. And he did exactly what he said he was going to do day one. And I do think it took some people by surprise because of that long wait and because of the strategy that was being used to navigate just the idiocracy that we were seeing and the craziness from the Biden administration. But we see the Trump here that we wanted and that we saw in the very beginning, and that we saw that resurface immediately as soon as he was sworn in with these executive orders.
Oh, yeah, bingo. And that's the thing is, the media and a lot of people are acting like they're surprised that Trump is actually doing the things he campaigned on. I mean, they should have learned their lesson the first time during Trump's first administration. I've said it many times here on the show that during 2016, I did vote for Trump, but I didn't expect him to actually put the pedal to the metal and actually get things done like he did. And instead, the biggest impediment ended up being a lot of, undocumented Democrats, these rhinos in Congress blocked his efforts. They worked hand in hand with the deep state to, spin these yarns, the Russian collusion narrative, all these other hoaxes to try to stop him. And this time he's out ahead of all that. And, looks like he's going to get through all or most of his nominees, and he is going to stick to the agenda, whether they like it or not, and no matter how angry and upset the media gets. Now, before we get into the story, what you're doing now in Congress, and again, congratulations on winning your race. But I kind of want to refresh our audience's memory. And what is it that happened that caused you to run for Congress?
Well, here in Oklahoma, there's a number of things that have been surfacing, and then we were kind of brought into that unexpectedly, my own family. But really, the big fight here, really nationwide, we're just putting some boots on the ground and being very serious about our take on it here in Oklahoma, is the fight with Child Protective Services, sort of being a tyrannical entity of government and overstepping its bounds. And we understand there's a place for DHS, but we have had such a problem even nationwide. I was just up in West Virginia a couple months ago talking to some of their representatives and senators about the same issue. And so we have had the issue with them basically getting it wrong too many times and sweeping up innocent families with families that did need some type of intervention. So I have filed some legislation in the Oklahoma House of Representatives that holds accountability for Child Protective Services here in Oklahoma. We are hoping to get this bill and the word out of it nationwide to let people know that, their voice and their grassroots effort to hold accountability for a tyrannical form of government or a weaponized justice system is being heard, and boots on the ground are being activated. And there are elected officials out there that really have the heart to be a servant to the people. And we want that to ripple throughout the nation. So I'm so grateful to talk about what we're doing here in Oklahoma and hopefully get it out to every state in the nation.
Oh, yeah. Well, judging by some of these headlines, you've definitely kicked a hornet's nest over there. I want to read through some of these he sent over here. Oklahoma lawmaker proposes bill allowing kidnapping charges for DHS workers. State lawmaker files bill that threatens legal actions against DHS if cases are mishandled. DHS workers could face kidnapping charges under new child welfare bill. And State Rep Woolley pushes accountability bill as judge dismisses DHS petition. I got one more. House bill could impose felony charges on DHS workers. And, again, they're trying to make the feds the victim when in reality they're the villain in the case. And that's why you guys need this legislation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Department of Human Services, this even relates to the border crisis that we're seeing when it comes across with human trafficking, and what we're seeing with the Department of Human Services really being such a large operation, even though at state level, that it's really biting off more than it can chew. And that's the problem that we see. We see the same thing on the federal level with the Federal Department of Education or their Department of Human Services or Child Protective Services. Such a large operation that really should be handled more locally. That is causing so many loopholes for problems. But this did send waves throughout the state of Oklahoma. Some news stations said, they anticipated seeing legislation coming from me on this, as my nephew was taken or kidnapped, I would say, rather by the Department of Human Services, Child Protective Services, under false accusations. And false charges on my parents have since been dropped. But Child Protective Services, once they have your kid, it's a whole different ballgame at that point, even when everything's been debunked or disproven. And that's what this bill is here to address.
Gabe, I don't think most people really understand or think about it unless they find themselves in that position, or they do media type of work and have spoken to people who found themselves in that position. What is the motivation of the CPS? Is it money? And if so, how much money are these people getting for kidnapping these children? I mean, I'd imagine it's a decent amount of money. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I have some friends with OCPA, Oklahoma Council for Public Affairs, doing even deeper research on this to formulate our argument for this bill in committee. Right now, Oklahoma now has a new threshold for legislation in the House of Representatives. There's now 2 tiers of committees that we have to get our bill through instead of just one before it hits the House floor. So we are spending some extra time working on our argument to get this through committee with OCPA. But I did have them start looking into doing some research on the financial incentives with Child Protective Services. And again, what I'm going to say here is certainly what we've been hearing is being mirrored throughout the whole state, which is why we want this story pushed out nationwide. If this bill works, or a variation of it, if we make amendments to it, we want to be able to have other states use this in their state legislation to hold their Child Protective Services accountable. And that's what it is. It's not abolish Child Protective Services. It's put accountability back with Child Protective Services. So we make sure that it's actually protecting children and not tearing families apart when they're not supposed to be. But certainly, yeah, we have found through our own experience and some research that, yes, there is financial incentives to remove children from their home. Of course, foster parents would make a paycheck from that. I'm not ragging on foster parents as a whole, because I know there are some great foster parents. I'm an elementary school teacher and I've worked with foster parents. But because of the financial incentive, there is the opportunity for people with the wrong motives to get involved. So in our case with Clayton, his biological aunt on his father's side, who never knew him and never wanted anything to do with kids, on record said she doesn't even like kids, is being given a paycheck per child that she has. Turns out that there's accusations of Clayton and his two stepbrothers being abused in that home where DHS had placed him. A judge court ordered that his two stepbrothers be removed because of this abuse, but that same judge has left Clayton in that same home, and still to this day he's there. And so it's the financial incentive, like you said. It's the paycheck per child. And then if you get these children on some sort of IEP or some sort of disability or some sort of medication, the financial incentives increase with every other string that the government can attach to the child, where they would get some sort of subsidy, food stamps, all these things. It's not as complex as it needs to sound. The more strings the government's attached to something, the worse that it can be, because we have wanted as a nation for a long time to be independent, but the government completely relies on our tax dollar funds and completely relies on the dependence of the government in order to continue to get money to traffic and continue to get money to money launder, whether it be our wars, money laundering through wars with Congress, whether it be locally, the financial incentives that come from Child Protective Services. It would be very interesting to see if we followed some sort of model where there wasn't a money aspect to it, and any avenue to follow the money, if we would draw the right type of motives versus the wrong type, because money, when being properly misused as a tool, is an avenue for corruption. And we have seen with Child Protective Services, federal dollars can come into that, state dollars can come into that, and the incentive for Child Protective Services is just there, which has led to just more careless work and more of an incentive to wrongfully remove children from their homes.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of what's so insidious about this is both the perverse incentives that they're incentivized to essentially to harm children or put them in situations that are even worse in order to keep the money flowing in. But I think it's also, the perception from most people, if they're not familiar with all these CPS corruption cases all over the country, is people think, they're there for a reason. And they're not entirely wrong. Like, CPS should be removing some kids from situations that are abusive or neglectful. But the problem is now is it's essentially been weaponized, and they are instead incentivized just to remove kids from wherever and essentially traffic them. Like, we don't know where they end up. A lot of times they end up in worse situations or situations of known abuse. And then there is not any accountability for any of this. Rarely do we see somebody being arrested or anything else. In general, what we see is when things like this are uncovered, the people are terminated and they're fired, and it's just swept under the rug, and there's no real repercussions for anyone.
Hey, I got a comment here from the audience, and I wanted to get Gabe's thoughts on this because he's obviously an expert on this. And it's from Fed Up Conservative. Fed Up says, once you get in the system for CPS, you can never expunge the information, even if it's proven to be incorrect.
Wow.
Is that true? What are your thoughts on that, Gabe?
That is precisely the problem here. I have another bill filed. I haven't gone public about it yet, but it's basically the reverse button bill. If a person is accused of something and their charges are dropped or dismissed, you have to expunge the record. You have to have evidence and proof of something to continue pursuing it, and you have to have some sort of basis. My first bill that we have gone public about, Oklahoma House Bill 1100 from this year, 2025, basically has really been skewed by a lot of the local media as well. So I kind of want to set the record straight with that too. But it's being called the kidnapping bill or the DHS kidnapping accountability bill. And that is a small aspect of it. But actually what the heart of the bill is, what about 75% of this bill is, it goes in and takes the legal language and changes the word preponderance of evidence to clear and convincing evidence. Preponderance of evidence means there just needs to be a 51% likelihood or chance that a child might be being abused. No evidence, no concrete facts, just hearsay, someone's perspective, someone's opinion, something that DHS thinks could be possible that a district attorney believes themselves. But we're supposed to live in a nation, in a world where you're innocent until proven guilty, and you're supposed to actually have to prove that, and the burden of proof is supposed to be on the state and on the court. That's the problem here. So we're taking that word preponderance and striking it from the law, and we're putting in clear and convincing evidence, and that is a legal term that has a higher threshold and a higher accountability level that the judge would have to operate off of. And if the judge cannot find evidence, clear and convincing evidence, the judge would not be able to continue pressing these charges, and hopefully would administer the release of the child and order Child Protective Services to release the child because there's no evidence of any crime or misconduct. If there is evidence of crime or misconduct, some sort of confession, DNA evidence, some sort of markings on the body, this bill wouldn't go into effect. And that's what people need to know. So the only way that DHS worker somewhere up the chain, first, it would not be the caseworker likely, it'd be whoever has the authority to order the release or holding of a child somewhere up the chain. That DHS worker could be charged with kidnapping if they refuse to release a child when a judge has ordered the release of a child. So that's not very likely to happen. It's most likely that DHS would listen to the judge, but there are 2 cases that I know of where that hasn't been, so it's not completely impossible. Therefore, that language is there. But again, this bill really is truly about changing the word preponderance to clear and convincing evidence so that we can begin operating under the guise of innocent until proven guilty. What we say we believe, we should start acting like it.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. Gabe, really quick, are you getting pushback from your colleagues in the State House and Senate on this? I mean, to me, I feel like this is a no-brainer. Like, this is, to me, is a major issue. I think that anybody who's ever found themselves in that situation, or even knows someone who found themselves in the claws of the CPS situation, that they would agree with this. Are you getting pushback from your colleagues on these bills?
We're getting tremendous support from the people. Like I said, almost every local media station here in Oklahoma contacted me about an interview, and then we went through the feedback in the comments section. And on this, I haven't been able to keep up with all the emails from cases of Child Protective Services in Oklahoma. That doesn't mean that all those cases were wrong. You have to be careful that you don't get cases where a child did need to be removed, hopefully temporary, until the family can be restored and is willing and able. But you can't have the cases where they got it right, tampering with the ones where they got it wrong. We have to be very careful here. So I'm not abolish DHS. I'm a pro accountability. And so we have gotten a lot of feedback, positive feedback from Oklahomans, from some fellow lawmakers that I communicate with as well. But unfortunately, what News Channel 6 here in Oklahoma did, and we have, in my opinion, known them to be very, very slanted. In my own case, my understanding is that Lori Fulbright, the news anchor with News Channel 6, is friends or went to high school with a detective who was on my parents' case, who wanted to push the charges of murder and sexual abuse. And so what News Channel 6 did is, it appears that they went out and sought out another freshman state lawmaker who is friends with Sheriff Chris Elliott, our sheriff that tried to press the false accusations of murder and sexual abuse against my parents, and had him be the counterpart to this news piece and say that this bill was in fact dangerous, and putting up somewhere along the lines of putting a bad label on DHS workers just trying to protect children. But it was very easy to follow the trail there. This is we know this individual is a former sheriff, is friends with Sheriff Chris Elliott, and Sheriff Chris Elliott is friends with Lori Fulbright in Channel 6. It was a very quick and easy connect the dots situation. So technically, yes, there was that pushback live on air with another lawmaker, though I don't know how much they really looked into it, how genuine it is. This is my observation, and from the information that I have heard, the claims that I'm making myself, really rather as a concerned Oklahoman more than not so much as a state representative, speaking as someone who loves his country, loves his state, wants there to be accountability, wants to actually reach across the aisle and work with these people and not against them, is the statements that I've given on plenty news segments. Interestingly enough, on that News Channel 6 piece, I will tell you also, during my interview with them, I said 3 separate times on record that this bill is a work in progress and I'm willing to make amendments to get what needs to be done passed to protect Oklahomans. And they left
Sure.
all of that out of the news segment. And I gave them 3
Of course.
chances to put it in, and they didn't add it in there. They wanted to paint the picture that I wasn't going to budge and that I was just trying to paint a group that's supposed to be protecting children as the enemy. It's a bill about accountability. It's not a painting someone as the enemy. In the name of wanting to protect children, I would hope that the Department of Human Services would be embracing this piece of legislation.
Yeah, because again, it's common sense. You don't want to do anything to the people out there doing the job that is necessary because, like you said, there are some people where the kids do need to be pulled from the house, that the parents are completely neglectful, irresponsible, or even abusive. At the same time, you don't want to slander the DHS, CPS operatives that are out there doing their job. But at the same time, like you said, there needs to be real accountability, especially when these people violate the law or are participating in harming these children. Or, like you said, there's 2 cases where they just straight up ignored decisions from judges or court orders. I mean, that's even worse. But, I really wonder why, like, at the state level, in so many states, we see this level of corruption with this particular agency, that we see it weaponized over and over again, too, with people that are speaking out that have, unpopular views, according to the mainstream media or the current narrative. Will there be any other amendments maybe to, if this is a case of DHS, CPS being weaponized, any type of repercussions for the people that went along with that?
We would like to see future legislation continue to hold accountability. What you need to be careful about, what I'm learning here as an Oklahoma legislator, if you write a bill that does too many different things in one bill, it won't even be heard in committee because it's trying to do too much at once. And there's 101 state representatives, and there's 48 senators, and there's the governor. So there's 149 people that this has to pass through, and it has to be approved by a majority of those 149. So if you write a bill that, I call it the Save the World bill, that tries to solve every problem with DHS, it's not going to be heard in committee. You've got to chip away at that mountain, at that boulder. And so this is one bill that changes the word from preponderance to clear and convincing evidence. It does also have that aspect that a DHS worker could be charged with kidnapping if they refuse to return a child when ordered to do so. Again, I hope that that's not likely to happen. Also, what this bill does, Oklahoma House Bill 1100 from 2025, gives clear guidelines and dates that the judge has to make a decision. We have so many cases where judges have just drug on someone's case and postpone it, and we'll meet again next month, we need to postpone it for this or that, and before you know it, it's been 7, 8, 9, 10. I even talked to a family 12 years since the child has been removed, and they just haven't been given a fair shake to tell their side of the story. So Oklahoma House Bill 1100 requires that a judge hear both sides of the argument and reviews the evidence every 6 months until guardianship, or until the person who has guardianship or legal custody of the child, until their rights are dissolved or until they're signed over or given up when they've made that decision. But if they're still putting up a fight and still saying there's more to the story here, the judge would be required to review every 6 months as long as there's still evidence to keep things going. And that's been part of the problem. So it's giving clear-cut time frames to act, because that's time where this child is being removed from their family, potentially wrongfully. And the time is going to add up. I mean, my own nephew, Clayton, he's been gone in March. It would be 7 years under false accusations that have been dropped, and he's still gone. He'll never forget this. So we want to minimize the time frames and the ways that the legal system can just push off carelessly a child's life and family's well-being without having the burden to prove something. So that's what Oklahoma House Bill 1100 does. It puts that accountability and strict time frames back into the law and requirements on these judges.
Bro, how can 7 years and 12 years not be considered kidnapping? That is insane to me. Sorry, Mike, I know we got to take a break, but I just wanted to, I can't believe it.
Well, you're right. Yeah, we can discuss that when we get back because, this isn't the only case like that. Like I know somebody here locally that same thing. They've been fighting a case for either 7 or 8 years. That's just as ridiculous. Essentially, they took in their grandson, their daughter was kind of getting her life together, had been homeless or whatever. So they brought her son to live with her parents until she got moved into an apartment or something. And instead DHS hit them because the kid wasn't with her, kidnapped them. And now we're, I think, 8 years later and they still don't have custody back. And again, no problem with the grandparents or anything else. Everything was done legally. She had sole custody of her son. It was just a situation where, she tried to do the best thing for him. And I guess the ex made a phone call and now nobody has custody of it. And instead the kid's been tied up in the system, moving from, caretaker to caretaker for 8 years now. I mean, it's insane. But yeah, we do have to take a quick break and then we're going to be right back with even more.
Play your trump card and support Make America Great Again with the Donor Deck. Get your hands on 52 exquisite playing cards, each with powerful quotes from scripture and stunning artwork. Plus, showcase your MAGA pride with a beautiful display case and a reversible challenge coin. By purchasing the Donor Deck, you become an official donor, contributing to our cause and helping President Trump reclaim the White House. Get your Donor Deck today and play your part in making America great again.
Go to the Patriot.tv store and get your Donor Deck now.
Attention business owners and entrepreneurs, Patriot TV is launching a brand new TV series showcasing American-made products, and your business could be featured. Whether you sell your products online on Etsy or Shopify and dream of reaching millions of viewers on smart TVs like Samsung, Sony, TCL, and LG, or apps like Roku, Android, and Apple TV, this is your chance. We're searching for US-based businesses offering all types of products and services proudly made in the USA. If you've ever wanted to showcase your products on TV like QVC or the Home Shopping Network, now's your opportunity. Support our American economy, grow your business, and be seen by loyal Patriot viewers across the country. Know someone with a business or have a business yourself? Don't miss out. Contact us at supportingpatriots.com today. Be a guest on this new exciting TV series. Let's put your American-made products in the spotlight.
What do a neurosurgeon, a country artist, and a television and radio host have in common? They all saw the writing on the wall. Big banks sharing your financial information with big government. Join them as owners in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank that protects your privacy, security, and liberty. Invest today at own.oldglorybank.com.
Thank you for staying with us. And again, the best way to support our program and all the programs here on Patriot TV is by supporting our sponsors. And you can do that by going to patriot.tv, selecting the Insurrection, and you'll see a list of sponsors there below our program, along with some recent episodes. Before we left for the break, we were kind of touching on these clear abuses that have gone on, not just in Oklahoma, but all over the country. There seem to be certain states that are worse than others. But I think part of the problem we have while you kind of face an uphill battle with this bill and others is I think a lot of people are just totally unaware of the situation that's gone on. Or when they do hear about one of these cases, it sounds like clear kidnapping. They assume that it's a one-off, not that this is a pattern that's gone on throughout the country. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. And so just a few months ago, I was up in West Virginia talking to fellow lawmakers about the issue with Child Protective Services, and I did an interview with their news group down there, and I got tremendous feedback when that was posted on social media of so many other cases in West Virginia. There isn't a state in the union that you could go to where you're not going to find someone that has likely been wronged by DHS somewhere, again, because it's such a big operation and it's dealing with such a sensitive topic of children that they're ultimately, whether you're talking on a spiritual level, legislative level, whatever it may be, there's just that avenue and that opening up for perversion to come in and for it to be weaponized against the people, which is what happens so much with government. We hear President Trump talk so much, even recently during his inauguration, about the weaponized justice system. We can't forget that that actually happens to the people of America here on a local level as well, much like it did with my parents, Bill and Lisa Woolley in Wagner County, via elected officials. And that's what we want to make sure we're clear about is holding our conservative principles of being pro-law enforcement, pro-protecting children, pro-family, but also holding accountability and realizing that human beings are flawed and there is an avenue and an opportunity for perversion and the wrong, bad actors to get involved in these areas. And so conservatives need to be the party that holds accountability, even within themselves, even within aspects of what we try to uphold. We've had several cases where we've seen some bad actors in law enforcement. That doesn't mean that we're anti-law enforcement. It means that we're pro-accountability. And that's really what we're trying to do here with Child Protective Services. This is a nationwide issue. I can't tell you the number of times I've had families from other states about problems with their Child Protective Services system.
Oh yeah. Well, you're exactly right. Like, we don't want to burn down the agency because of some bad apples, but at the same time, it is in need of reform. And as you keep reiterating, it's accountability is what you're after. You don't want to burn down the system and get rid of Child Protective Services or anything like that. But there do need to be some repercussions. Especially Derrick, you brought up earlier where this stuff gets left on people's record after the fact. And I've seen this before with my previous career in the staffing industry, where we'd pull a background check on somebody, and it isn't just CPS charges. They'll leave stuff on there that somebody, maybe they were charged with a crime and then it was dismissed. And now sometimes maybe that's because they were in the orbit, or somebody filing false charges. I can give you a good example of that is tied to CPS, where I've seen where somebody had kidnapping charges on their background check that had been dismissed. But like, when the average person in HR sees that, they've got questions. They think you were involved with something and somehow you skated. In this gentleman's case, it was a lunatic ex-wife who showed up to pick the kids up early. I guess he was with them at a park still because he wasn't home. And when she wasn't supposed to be due there for another hour, she called the police and filed kidnapping charges. Now, it's on this guy's record, and every time he goes in for a job interview where they've pulled his background check, they see that, and then they're like, I'm not so sure about this guy. Let's hire somebody else. And anything that's like a dismissed charge or pulled off your record, if it's not still pending and they're not still investigating you for it, it needs to be eliminated so it doesn't create problems like that. Because at the end of the day, even though it says dismissed there or whatever, people are still seeing the charge, and then that's what they're looking at.
Yeah, I have to completely agree with that. I did talk to a fellow lawmaker that's former law enforcement. It's not uncommon for law enforcement, a lot of them, to get into legislation, things like this, and I respect the work that they did. The reason that I was giving, but I have to disagree with this individual, was that, well, we want to make sure that those things are still on the record. Then in the future, if they do something, we have evidence to be able to show that we were looking into this, that this was an issue, and then when we do future charges, when they did actually commit some type of crime, we can include that with those future charges. I do have to disagree with that, though, because you have to have evidence of something to be able to press it or to be able to keep it on someone's record. There has to be a line drawn in the sand somewhere where evidence and facts and reality and science actually mean something. And so if you can keep someone's record after charges were dropped or dismissed, I mean, it's just.
You might have frozen there.
Yeah, but I mean, he's right though. I mean, can you believe that they would want to hold that on somebody's record when there was no evidence of a crime being committed, just in case they were to commit a crime in the future? They could say that, well, we thought they committed a crime in the past and they didn't, but we need to have that on their record just in case they commit something in the future. Like that, only a tyrant would be okay with that. I mean, there's no logical explanation to think that is a good idea, or that it makes sense, or that, in the land of the free, if you will. I mean, that is next level, man. I can't even believe that.
Oh yeah, exactly. And again, it does cause like a major disturbance in people's life. And Gabe is trying to rejoin right now. I'm not sure what the connection is. I guess it looks like it dropped on his end. But he is trying to get back with us. But yeah, it's something I saw, and I don't know, maybe there's another way to do this, because he does bring up a valid point. Like, if somebody's been investigated for something repeatedly and they just haven't been able to either get enough evidence for a conviction or a warrant to move forward or whatever, but maybe there's a different way to do that, to like code it somehow at the bottom or on the background check system. So maybe even with this QR code or something like that, where they'll know to contact the police department that was involved in the case originally if they do need to talk to them, get more evidence, because that could lead to maybe now they've got the break and they can go back and charge them in the previous case as well, especially if this is an ongoing pattern of behavior. Okay, hold on one second. I'm going to try to.
I mean, if they want to have something to where it's only visible to them internally, okay. I mean, I'm still against it, but I could see the argument for that. But for it to just show up on somebody's background check when they're applying for a job or something like that, that is insane to have that on there when they were never found guilty of anything. I don't understand how anybody could support that. I mean, of course, then again, after everything I've went through, I'm would be considered an extremist, I guess, in terms of how I feel about this. CPS is really next level. Fed Up is in the chat here, and he's in my feed, and he's got a lot of experience with this. He worked in this industry in some aspect or another, and I was seeing him talk about that. And one of the things he mentions is that these people are paid less than $50,000 a year and work a lot of hours, and so they get burnt out. And then after getting burnt out, they leave. So there's a constant turnover of CPS agents within that industry. I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with some of this as well.
Yeah.
Welcome back, brother.
Yeah. We got you back. Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, we had some minor technical difficulties there, but again, the work you're doing there is really admirable, because I think this is something that is close to a lot of people's hearts. A lot of families have suffered because of situations exactly like this. And again, it's not everybody in Child Protective Services. There are a lot of good people that want to do their job. But there does need to be accountability, and there needs to be a system in place. So when something like this, does happen, we can pull out the bad apples, eliminate them from the job, or if it's something else, rectify it one way or another. Now I'm curious, are there any other big pieces of legislation that you're working on that you'd like to bring to people's attention?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, there's a number of things going on here in Oklahoma that we would love to highlight to make sure that, the nation is watching what's happening and being able to check and see what could be done in their state. How can we be united on this issue? I did join the efforts with Oklahoma Senator Dusty Devers. He did write a abolish abortion bill. I am pro-life, 100% pro-life, and so I agree.
Uh-oh, we might have lost him again.
The deep state.
Yeah, exactly. They really don't want him talking about this. Go
ahead,
Derrick. Yeah, we do need to take a break here in a second, but if you could keep things going for a second, I'm going to see if I can get him back on.
Yeah, no worries. Thaddeus over here is saying, no evidence should leave no records. It's simply common sense. And that's kind of exactly how I feel over here. I mean, it's why are we even having this discussion right now that you would have something on your record when you was never found guilty of that? I mean, it's as literally, I mean, dude, I don't even know how to describe this. That's crazy that they're doing that. And what's sad is most people don't know these things are happening within CPS, because how would you know unless you found your family involved in this situation, or if for some reason you knew somebody who was involved in this situation. So this is happening everywhere all over the country right now, and just most people don't know it. And even worse, our tax dollars are paying for these sorts of things to take place. So I want it changed. I mean, to me, this is crazy, and I'm happy that he came to West Virginia. I live in West Virginia, so I'm happy that he came up here as well. And then Fed Up said that she worked 20 years as a forensic interrogator, and it's pretty wild that, like I said, that this is happening.
Yeah, agreed. Well, I think we will go ahead and take our break here real quick. I'm trying to get Gabe back on. We're having a connection problems. His signal was just fine to begin with, and then somebody, probably some swamp monster, cut him off. Don't want him talking about this. But guys, stay with us, and we'll be right back with even more.
Have a new product or idea, whether it's already in production or just a concept. Whether you're an individual, a small business, or a medium-sized company, our upcoming show on Patriot TV is here to showcase it to millions and launch it in a big way. We're looking for businesses like yours to feature your product on our new show and pitch it to over 6 million followers, eager to support like-minded businesses. Whether it's a single product or a new product line, we have a platform to skyrocket sales. With powerful Patriot TV ads, targeted direct mail, and the influence of our dynamic show hosts, your product will get the attention it deserves. Don't miss this incredible opportunity. Email us now at advertise@patriot.tv to secure your spot and watch your sales take off.
I couldn't give anything a higher endorsement.
I would be remiss had I not include Cardio Miracle on my very short list of secrets.
It's the real deal. It's a real product. It's not another supplement.
I'm operating about 6 to 8 hours, and I've noticed that being on this Cardio Miracle has made a huge difference.
Since I started taking Cardio Miracle, I'm about 8 months into it, the benefits have been fantastic.
You know, if I get hungry, then I just have a Cardio Miracle.
Not only is it safe, but it's necessary to take Cardio Miracle to stay well.
This let me sleep and feeling like more energy, more get up and go, and it's all because of what this company does.
For me as a doctor, Cardio Miracle is a staple.
Cardio Miracle to me is hope in a glass.
To try Cardio Miracle for yourself and get a special fan discount, go to the host page right now and click the link for Cardio Miracle.
Thank you for staying with us. And again, the best way to support our program and all the programs here on Patriot TV is by supporting our sponsors. I want to get into just a few stories that we had queued up today too, because there is, as always, there is a lot to discuss, and a few things I think we need to highlight that, we've done a lot of winning this week, so we might as well at least talk about some of it. And one of the big ones that people are now discussing in the media is this. Robert Kennedy Jr. praises President Trump's order to declassify the RFK, JFK, and MLK assassination records. And, one thing about this I really liked was after Trump signed this executive order, he told whoever was assisting him there to make sure RFK Jr. got the pen that he signed this executive order with.
Yeah, I thought that was my favorite part of the whole thing. I thought that was awesome. He said, you know what? Give this to RFK Jr. I think that's incredible that he did that. Could you imagine what that means to him after everything that his families went through as well throughout all this? I know that they still got a few days or a few weeks or whatever to get him released. I'm excited to see what comes of that, see how or if it's redacted or not, or if we're going to get everything. I think we're going to see two different things. We're either going to see find out that the government killed these people, or we're going to find out that our government just overclassifies things for no reason whatsoever, and there was no reason for it to be classified to begin with. So that's what I think is going to happen.
No, I think that this is absolutely a tremendous move from President Trump, and I don't know that it would be able to be anybody else but him that did this. This is the Trump that we voted for. Just calling it like it is, offering transparency. And I have to also argue that I think that Trump is a changed man even since his first term, given the assassination attempt, given the weaponization of the justice system against him. I truly believe that he had maybe some level of spiritual awakening or some sort of change of his perspective from this. And we're seeing the fruit of that right here with many of the things he signed in day one, and the declassification of these documents, offering transparency to the people to know and see, just ask what's happened in our history. Is it being repeated now behind closed doors is exactly what needs to happen, and I think President Trump knows this.
Oh yeah, well I think too. Any move that stirs the CIA, the deep state, these mouthpieces in the media masquerading as journalists, anything that gets under their skin and makes them upset is probably a good thing for the country. And, they're already out there afraid that somehow this is going to discredit or tarnish the reputation of the CIA and the FBI for their involvement in these assassinations. I'm pretty sure that's what the record's going to show. And, the other kind of interesting angle on this story is yesterday, Trump cut Mike Pompeo's security detail. And, Tucker Carlson discussed previously that, Pompeo had threatened him about discussing this and threatened Trump about releasing the files. And that's why before we got the redacted version and, a number of documents were just straight up missing. So I think, what we're probably going to see in these when they're released over the next few days or week or so, because I guess as I saw this morning, it's going to take them probably about a week for them to release all the files that he just declassified, that they do have to go review them, and anybody whose name that's in there, it's not directly connected, that is still alive, they've got to, redact their name. And then they also have a policy of alerting anybody who is going to be left in the file that this is happening, so that they can, basically, I guess, prepare for the questions they're about to get. But yeah, I think this is good for the country, good for the world, and especially if this shows the CIA involvement with the RFK and JFK assassinations. And word on the street is it's possibly the FBI, I'm sure with some CIA help, in the MLK Jr. assassination. He was shot with a rifle where there were only 5 of them in the country, and I think 3 of them were owned by the FBI, and one of them just so happened to go missing shortly before this happened. So they've definitely got fingerprints on it at the least.
Well, and I'll just say I agree with what Gabe said a second ago. I think that President Trump literally had a spiritual awakening when the assassination attempt happened.
Yes.
I don't know how you couldn't. I think anybody would for that matter. But he has been a lot more vocal about his faith since that happened, and I think it also has emboldened him to he's human. You would have to think that some of these things were in the back of his mind this entire time. And I feel like surviving that has maybe emboldened him too, to go ahead and like, well, they already tried it once, like I might as well, and I didn't do those things. So I might as well go ahead and do these things since they're already trying to get me anyway. So I think I agree that there's been a spiritual awakening there. And, the difference between the first term and the second term, the first term was great, but I mean, we're already just rocking and rolling over here. I think he's exceeded everybody's expectations, even those of us who were his biggest supporters.
I have to comment back on that. I mean, just even when we think about the phrase "for such a time as this," isn't it interesting that the president that is going to release the files on assassinations is the man who was attempted to be assassinated himself? And
Yes.
if this would have happened in his first term, that wouldn't be the story here. He may have still have done it, but would it hold the same weight? But now that he can even empathize with the families, not saying that he was assassinated, but an attempted assassination on his life, is now President Trump, the president who will release the records of past assassinations on president's life. I really do believe that the pathway for this, for such a time as this, is just being laid out and orchestrated almost on just another level that we can't even understand, that we'll soon one day realize. And this is just everything falling into place with what exactly God has ordained for this place and time.
Well, another thing, that I've been thinking about this kind of like last night, this thought popped into my head is, this, if these documents show what we believe they do, CIA and FBI involvement, this shows that whether you want to call them the deep state, the shadow government, the military industrial complex, whatever, that this goes back a lot longer than most people currently believe it does. And it creates a real opportunity that, if these documents show what we believe they do, government involvement in assassination of U.S. presidents and other elected leaders and high public figures, that maybe this opens a path for real hearings and a real investigation to put these people on a hot seat, and let's find out what else they're doing behind the scenes illegally to control the people of the United States, whether that's through propaganda operations like Operation Mockingbird and whatever they want to call it today, since I'm sure it just changed names. But this opens a real opportunity to expose this shadow government, these unelected bureaucrats and others that are behind the scenes making decisions for us that shouldn't be.
And the conversation needs to be had. Those that are pushing against it, saying this is a conspiracy theory, saying that, you guys are being overly dramatic about something. These are real things that happened in history that the American people deserve to have answers for. And if it ends up being that, it was a bad actor somewhere that assassinated these individuals and the government wasn't involved with that, we deserve those answers just as much as if they were. So we can know how to continue to think and operate in a nation where it's supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, for the people. So all these people that are coming at us and the conservatives saying that this is just a conspiracy theory, this is ridiculous that you believe all these conspiracy theories of whatever they may be. No, we deserve answers, and we believe in transparency. That's what the effort is here. Do I believe that it's very likely that some government entity was involved with this? after what I've experienced in my own lifetime here with our own government and why I'm sitting in office right now in the Oklahoma House of Representatives, yes, I believe it is an absolute possibility. Would I be just as emphatic and impassioned about this issue even if I weren't? Given other things that I've been through in my life, wanting to be a strong conservative of transparency, I would still be making the same argument with you here or there. So I would just, honestly, I just kind of disregard these arguments of you're a conspiracy theorist. And I embrace that title at this point.
Well, yeah, you bring up a good point. We deserve to know the truth, regardless of what that truth may be. And I think it's ironic too that I'm pretty sure didn't the government come up with the term conspiracy theorist after the JFK assassination to debunk anybody who was questioning that at the time? Like that's literally when the term was originated, correct?
Well, I think it was. Well, it was before that. I think it was after the Roswell UFO crash when they started using the term conspiracy theorist.
Mainstream, I guess, though, was the JFK thing.
Yeah, could be. Because through the whole 1950s, they'd use that term to discredit people that were, witnesses they didn't want to deal with, or were talking about other things, or some of them were just, moon bats. But it's a term that they use to try to discredit people so they won't listen to what they say and just think, oh, this is just some wacko. But that's messed up too. And we know, they're continuing to use tactics like this. This isn't the first time they've blatantly lied to our faces to cover up government illegal or immoral actions committed by our government. And then when they get caught at the end of the day, it's always just, oops, well, I guess that won't happen again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just continuing to prey on the idea that, or the fact that people now in today's society have a short attention span and that we will forget about. But really, we need to be documenting. We need to be continuing to have the conversations, and so that this is not forgotten. And that's precisely what President Trump has done. He brought this conversation back to the front, back into our faces, and so we have to address this issue of things that happened so long ago with former presidents. He has brought that conversation back to the surface, and again, tying into his own assassination attempt, how it set the tone for this to be totally appropriate for right now. And letting Americans remember that we can't forget. There's such a movement, and I've seen it as an elementary school teacher, as a history teacher, of an attempt to erase history, an attempt to forget what has happened before so that they can continue to do things under the table or behind the curtain without us holding them accountable. No, let's remember these pieces of history, call upon them when it's appropriate, and pull back that curtain, even years later, like President Trump is doing right now. We deserve these answers, and we deserve that transparency, and we're going to be a better nation because of it, regardless of what's behind that curtain.
Well, we live at a time right now where conspiracy theorists is really just their spoiler alerts, because all these conspiracy theories have been proven to be true at the end of the day with the COVID and, all the tyranny, all the stolen election, all these things. It's really conspiracy theories are just spoiler alerts at this point.
Yeah, just own that title at this point. The right has claimed it, and we own it, and I'm here for it.
Exactly. I just consider it to be the coming attractions. So we got one other interesting story over here. Former Politico reporter reveals how the company killed negative stories about Joe Biden. And again, I think this is something we already all knew. We've heard plenty of other examples. But again, it's just a confirmation of what all of us have been saying, that there is, a media aligned with whatever you want to call it, the deep state, the uniparty, the globalist economic order, the liberal economic order, whatever you want to call it. But there is a cabal that wants a certain narrative, and anybody that steps outside of that, doesn't matter if it's evidence of Epstein trafficking children or Epstein's relation with Bill Clinton, whatever else, they will kill any story that is not convenient to their narrative, including the fact that Biden's brain doesn't work, and he's just a bitter old man eating ice cream, pretending to be in power.
Yeah, I think that this, in fact, we're in a place in a time where I'm going to actually make the argument now that we needed Biden to be here and be president for 4 years to wake more people up with this absolute ridiculousness and for them to reveal their cards. I mean, it really was an opportunity and a platform to show how smart the American people are and how we cannot be fooled and how we rose up to power and how we rose up to influence, and we put President Trump back in the seat. We beat the former stolen election. We held them accountable for 4 years. We did not let that story die, that truth die. We asked and we pushed and we continued to talk about it like we were just talking about with the conspiracy theories. continue to ask questions. And so we're now finally seeing President Trump in the Oval Office again as a product of that. And Trump pulled so many more voters, I believe, because of how ridiculous Biden was for his 4 years, and they just were over it, knowing that Kamala Harris was his right-hand person and that we were going to have to deal with that BS all over again, perhaps even worse on some level. And I believe that that helped Trump's campaign ultimately leading up to this moment.
Oh yeah, I got one last piece of good news I want to get to before we run out of time here. But you know, the Trump effect, it's real and it's happening. Transgender inmates panic as Donald Trump's executive order sends them packing back to men's prisons where they belong. They missed an opportunity here though. They could have called this the Tranic. But yeah, again, like this is awesome. It's wonderful news. This is going to cut down on how many women in prison are now being raped by these lunatic men pretending to be women, and then us financing it. Again, not to mention financing the sex changes and all the drugs that they need to pretend to be pretty.
I'll just quickly say that as someone who was in prison, for January 6th, even outside the raping and stuff, it's one of those dog eat dog worlds, you know what I mean? And so these men are bigger, stronger, more athletic than these women, and they're going in there and they're running these pods and just, bossing everybody around, beating them up and everything else. So this is definitely a good thing. And then also we need to stop using our tax dollars to pay for these things. I couldn't believe how many trannies were in there getting their priority on their medicine and all that stuff at the taxpayers' expense, just so that they could transition and eventually move over there. And then we got some people in the chat here, Gabe, who are wanting to know how they can get a hold of you. Like Fed Up has worked in this industry for like 20 years, has a lot of experience, and would love to connect with you and help out as well.
Yeah, I would tell them to reach out to me on X and to follow me there to stay up to date with things. It's Gabe G. Woolley, GABEGWOOLLEY. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, but I'm glad that you brought up this January 6th aspect as well as the prison issue with the transgenderism. Let the overall arching theme of this podcast episode, of this interview, just be justice and just be the restoration of a justice system, at least getting closer to that. Men should not be in women's prisons, and Child Protective Services should not be attempting or being allowed to criminalize the innocent and kidnap people's children under false accusations. My parents spent 8 months in jail for crimes they didn't commit. Again, with our justice system broken here. And January 6th, this triumphant victory right here of the January 6ers, even right here in Oklahoma. I didn't know until 3 days ago that there were 5 January 6ers being kept in the Grady County, Oklahoma jail, and several lawmakers, Senator Kendall Sakieri, Senator Dusty Devers, right here in Oklahoma, petitioned through X and got Oklahomans band together, and Oklahomans physically showed up to greet those January 6ers when they were released to make sure that they were welcomed. And that was a huge effort. Again, really, Senator Kendall Sakieri, I would say, is the champion of this. We had some people who are maybe higher up in government wanting some higher level position for our 2026 campaign try to steal the credit for that. But I'm going to give credit where credit is due, and it was really the efforts, Dusty Devers, Kendall Sakieri, other state level elected officials, getting these January 6ers out. I did see on X today that there was possibly a January 6er moved from Oklahoma to Florida. So we'll be tracking that story to make sure that the justice system is not continuing to imprison these people that were, wrongfully convicted and put in prison. And so it echoes my own family's story, and many people hear their own story of a weaponized justice system that Trump has been speaking out against.
Yeah. And, we didn't get a chance to get to this today. Maybe we'll jump back on this Monday. But there's another piece of news that just broke, thanks to shout out to Steve Friend over here. And I'll just read his tweet here. The J6ers were all pardoned, but my moles inside the FBI tell me they are getting directives not to return evidence to subjects. That means cases can't be officially closed. So again, it's just another way to abuse power and slow walk things, to harm people in their personal lives, delay the inevitable. They've already been pardoned. But, this is the problem with the weaponized justice system. This is why we need this resolved as quick as possible. But guys, we are unfortunately out of time today. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. It's been a glorious inauguration week for Trump. And, I don't think anybody could have ever done a better job and gotten more accomplished than Trump did in the last 5 days. And this is just the beginning, guys. We have thousands of days left to celebrate. So
absolutely.
Please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. And we're going to be back on Monday with even more.